The release of Blender 5.2 is just around the corner. As usual, I've been testing out the beta version so that you don't have to, in order to uncover some of the best features. This version of Blender has quite a lot of cool features, including a few things that people have been waiting for a very long time. So let's jump into it and talk about 4 or 5 of my favorite features coming to Blender 5.2. One challenge in Blender has always been to create extremely thin materials that also have some light pass through them in order to create things like paper and leaves and very, very thin glass. We usually have to mix subsurface and translucency and transmission and all sorts of other things to try and get a realistic result. But now if we add a plane into the scene and give it a new material, you'll see that we have this option here called thin wall. And that's basically what this is intended to replicate. It's for when you have a mesh and the material is not thick enough for any subsurface scattering to really happen, but otherwise light will pass through it and will be kind of translucent. So let's say, for instance, we make this kind of like a Christmas ornament sort of thing, like a really thin, like plasticky or glass materials to turn the roughness down. Let's turn the transmission up quite high. You could see that it kind of gives you a bit of a weird effect from certain angles. It just goes completely reflective and it doesn't really look right at all. But now if we turn on this thin wall, we now get a much, much better result where it actually has that sort of really thin acrylic or glass look to it. So this is a really nice thing to have because there is a lot of different scenarios where this is going to come in handy, especially for things like leaves. Usually to get accurate leaves in Blender, you have to add like a solidify or something to them so you get the light coming through properly, but now you can just use this thin wall setting instead. If you've seen this channel before, you might be aware that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Blender's simulation tools. The Blender developers are working hard to improve simulations in Blender, and in 5.2 we get the first look at a work-in-progress version of one of those improvements, and that's a new dynamic cloth solver, which I'm really excited about. So let's just add 20 loop cuts in either direction to this plane. Then I'm going to select this vert in the corner, and I'm going to add this to a vertex group, sign, and then I'm going to add a cloth modifier. Now we've got the original physics cloth, but we have this new cloth dynamics experimental. This is the one we want. And you might notice straight away that it's automatically added the vertex group that I made to the pin group. So we can just play this and it works straight away with all of the settings that you would have. So it's got collisions going on and it's pinned to the top and everything's working nicely. But the really cool thing about this is because it's a dynamic solver, if I press G, I can actually move this thing around in real time. And it's not marvelous design yet, but it is actually incredibly stable, right? You can really try and mess this up, move it all over the place, and it just settles back really nicely. And then if I just let go of that, it'll go right back to its original place. And I'm absolutely blown away with just how stable this is. It has a lot of potential. Like I said, this is still experimental at the moment, but you can really see how this is going to turn into a very cool solver in the future. I'm really excited about this one. Tiny Spaces for Blender is now available for purchase. Tiny Spaces is a beginner accessible course where we build amazing spaces inside tiny containers. There's plenty of content for more advanced users too. Module 1 covers the creation of a lighthouse scene inside a terrarium, complete with liquid simulation waves, animated seaweed, and even procedural birds. There will be at least 3 more bonus modules added to this course over time, so if you buy it now, you will get those for free. Right now, you can save 35% on all of my courses with the code SAVE35 at checkout. There'll be a link in the description and pinned in the comments. Now, a dynamic cloth system is only any good if it can actually collide with things, and we have a new type of collider as well. So if I add a torus into the scene and I type in collider, you can see we have the original collision property over here, and we have this new collider. And I'm going to add this to a new collection, collection 4. And then over here, let's just find the effectors, and the collection is collection 4. And if we play this out, you can see that this is now colliding with this, and it's dynamic. In real time, we can affect this cloth. So obviously there's going to be other types of effectors that you can have working on the cloth at the same time in the future. But once again, I just can't really get over how stable this is. You expect it to go really glitchy, and it seems to just work fine. So I can't talk about these new simulation tools without mentioning this final option over here, which is for tearing. If you've ever done any sort of destruction scene in Blender before, you probably know that one of the big limitations is that Blender can't calculate damage. If you want something to blow up into pieces, or you want something to be torn, a piece of material or something to be torn, or a piece of paper to be shredded up, in the past, you always had to manually cut that up, or you had to find some way to cut the mesh up beforehand before you ran a simulation on it. Whereas now we can actually have that as part of the simulation. So if I turn on tearing and I just play this, nothing much will happen. But if I grab this and I start whacking it from the right angle, let's just find that there we go. I've got holes that are now being torn into this. Now this is obviously a very low resolution mesh that we're working with, but you can see the Blender's calculated that little areas should be pulled off. And in fact, what we can actually do here is if we turn down the setting, so let's go for like 1.1. It's not enough. Try 1. We can have this break apart and pretty much work like glass. So you can actually play around with how solid the object and stuff is, and make it so it works like glass, or so it works like any other sort of material that might break apart. I've seen a lot of experiments that people have been putting up on Twitter and stuff, trying to simulate different sorts of effects using this. But the fact that this is like real time and dynamic, I think is going to be a big game changer. So this last feature is something that I'm really excited about. And if you have quite a low performance computer, especially, this is something that you should really be excited about too. One of the most annoying problems that you can run into in Blender, especially if you're trying to make large scenes or you're working on less powerful computers, is the error message saying that you've run out of VRAM when you try to render out. This happens especially if you're using lots of high resolution textures in a scene, and it can be really annoying and a big limit on the scale of the work that you're creating. So Blender now has a solution to this in the form of texture caching. I won't go into the details of like how it works in the background, but texture caching basically makes a file that allows Blender to use much less memory when it's rendering out. The files are called .tx files, and they're pretty much industry standard. Arnold and Redshift and several other big renderers already can do this. So if you go over to the rendering tab and you go to, I think it's under performance, we have this texture cache option here. And you can generate one yourself. Obviously, I don't have any textures in this scene at the moment, but if you press that normally, it would generate one, or you could clear it and add another one. Or you can auto-generate, in which case, when you render a project out, Blender will automatically make one for you. Now, usually or often with texture caching, it comes at the penalty of maybe increased render times. But there's been some benchmarks that I've found that show that it massively decreases the amount of memory that's used while having practically no effect at all on render times. And realistically, if you're rendering out an animation or something, it will probably save you a lot of time, because usually when you're using texture caching, the time between frames will actually be shorter. You know, when Blender's like compiling the next frame, loading all the textures, that's usually quicker. So actually, in reality, if you're using animations, you'll probably get much faster render times. I also think it's worth mentioning that the Loop Tools add-on is now enabled by default in Blender. Loop Tools is a really powerful add-on that already comes with Blender, but for some reason wasn't enabled by default. I have no idea why, other than to make me constantly tell people in tutorials how to enable it. But now I don't need to do that anymore. So if you've never seen Loop Tools before, it's a sort of mesh management set of tools that can do stuff like this. If we right click on this edge loop and go circle, it will turn it into a perfect circle shape. I can even do that on very low resolution stuff. Great little tool. I use this all the time, and I'm glad that I don't have to tell people how to enable it anymore. So thanks very much for watching this video. Let me know what features you're most excited about. Remember to check out the link in the description where you can pick up Tiny Spaces at a 35% discount right now, with the code save35.